36 landlords filed a lawsuit against the New York State eviction moratorium, one of the last eviction moratoriums still going on here in the United States. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so this is actually an update to a previous video that I did that was covering lawsuit that was going against the new New York State eviction moratorium. So now there is another lawsuit that's also going against that New York State eviction moratorium. And as I said before, there's only a few states left in the entire country where moratoriums are still going on. Now in New York State, their moratorium was extended till I believe mid-January of 2022. So the landlords there are really still facing a lot of challenges, and they got to get rid of this thing. Okay, it's unlawful, it's unconstitutional. The changes that they made to it after the Supreme Court tore up the original New York State eviction moratorium were minimal, and they didn't really make much of a difference at all. So yeah, I agree that they have to fight. They have to fight this thing right now and get it ripped apart, because this could easily be extended in the middle of the winter all the way until summer. Okay, and that would be just a nightmare for the landlords there. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that the state of New York would actually allow the eviction moratorium to expire in the middle of winter in January of 2022? I mean, I don't. I can see it right now. They'll be like, hey, we can't kick people out in the cold in the middle of the winter. I mean, look, it's snowing out. No, this thing is going to get extended unless it gets thrown out by the courts. So, yeah, they need to fight it. So, this article is coming from buffalonews.com, and it says, landlords file lawsuit over eviction moratorium. They say it causes tremendous harm. And let's see what it says. Some 36 landlords from across Erie County have filed a lawsuit calling the state's ongoing eviction moratorium unconstitutional. Their inability to evict tenants who assert a COVID-19 financial hardship has caused them to suffer tremendous harm, with some at risk of losing not only their rental properties, but their own homes, according to their state Supreme Court filing. The landlords, based in Buffalo, Kenmore, and the towns of Amherst, Hamburg, Grand Island, and Tonawanda, range from mom-and-pop operations with 1 or 2 rental units to companies with hundreds of units. And now that's a good thing to see, okay? Small landlords and large landlords teaming up for the purpose of getting rid of this thing, okay? And everybody needs to let their individual story be known, okay? I want the courts to read these stories and hear about these small landlords especially who are put in just awful financial distress. But the big landlords can suffer too, and it can be even worse for them, because simply put, if they have a lot of tenants who aren't paying, that means they might have to lay off staff. That means that they won't be able to pay for the utilities. They might not be able to pay the taxes. I mean, it could be absolutely awful for the big landlords as well. Companies could go bankrupt. I mean, we don't want to see this. We don't want to see these properties go into foreclosure. We don't want to see that. So what we want to see is the landlords able to remove tenants who aren't paying and then get tenants back into their units who are paying. Also, as long as we have the eviction moratorium going on, you're actually disincentivizing tenants who are capable of paying. You're disincentivizing them from paying, okay? Don't believe for 1 second that every single tenant who is, protected by the eviction moratorium and isn't paying rent right now, don't believe for 1 second that they are unable to pay rent. Some of them just see it as, hey, I get to save some money for, a few months, and I'll use that extra money for whatever I want. And I know that's dishonest, but hey, there's a lot of dishonest people out there. And that's the thing about being a landlord. You get to meet and deal with real people. You don't live in fantasy world like a lot of these politicians do. The lawsuit targets the COVID-19 Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act of 2020, which the state legislature modified in September to extend the moratorium through at least January 15th. The suit names as the defendant Lawrence K. Marks, the chief administrative judge of the state court system, who is responsible for implementing and administering the act. In any other industry, Customers are still required to pay for the goods and services they receive, said Anthony Trusso, one of the landlords in the suit. But under the state's current rules, tenants need only file a hardship declaration that says they are unable to pay their rent. Tenants are not required to provide any proof they have lost a job or suffered some other form of financial hardship. And that's the key right there. You're not required to provide any proof at all to get these protections. And so you can just declare on the phone, oh, yeah. And they say, well, it's under penalty of perjury. But have you heard of any lawsuits or any courts going after anybody for lying? No. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So that's complete BS, okay? So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of fraud involved in it. And we can see that from our side. Furthermore, tenants who aren't paying are also not required to apply for the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which enables their landlord to receive money from the government in lieu of their tenants' rent payments. Trusso said area landlords will work with tenants who make a good faith effort to pay what they can and apply for federal rental aid, but some of those tenants have refused to speak with the landlords and even avoid them, leading the landlords to believe some of their non-paying tenants are falsely claiming a hardship just to take advantage of the eviction moratorium. And that's exactly what they're doing, okay? So, like it said in the article, you're not required to actually apply for the rental assistance if you are claiming a COVID hardship. They're like, oh, I need protections from the from eviction due to the eviction moratorium, but no, I don't need no rental assistance. I'm good. I don't need to pay that landlord nothing. I mean, who would say that? I mean, really, if you're not applying for the rental assistance, I mean, honestly, if you're asking for rental protections from the eviction moratorium, you should automatically also be applying for the rental assistance if you really are facing hardship. And maybe the state should make them apply for the rental assistance if they want those protections, but the state didn't do that, okay? And my biggest problem is, though, that this shouldn't even be an argument, okay? This is an unlawful eviction moratorium. All of them were unlawful. And trying to make the best of it is ridiculous. Trying to even make the argument that, the way it's implemented isn't fair. Well, it shouldn't have been implemented at all. That's the real argument right there. So, what craziness. According to court documents, Trusso's company, True Commercial Development, LLC, owns 400 units in 12 properties of various sizes throughout western New York, charging on average $900 to $1,000 a month for larger apartments and $750 for studios. True has about 40 tenants owing rent or otherwise applying for rental assistance. As of October 25th, the amount of rental arrears owed by the 40 tenants was approximately $73,825, Trusso said in an affidavit. For the month of October 2021, my business has experienced a shortfall of $22,017, Trusso said in his affidavit. I've had to use personal funds and funds from my other businesses to cover the losses experienced to cover True's mortgages, taxes, and other expenses. Yeah, I mean, this guy is not a small landlord. He owns 400 units, and just those 40 tenants out of those 400 not paying have caused him to lose money for the month, okay? He lost money and has to pull that money from elsewhere because of just 10% of his units not paying rent. That's it. Okay, so those people who think that, hey, you're a big landlord, you've got all these tenants, you'll be fine, that's not always the case. I mean, this is a perfect example of that right there. Now, imagine this on a smaller scale where you have 4 units, and guess what? Just one of your tenants is not paying. Okay, so all of a sudden you realize, hey, man, I'm not making any money this month because the normal amount of profit that I make, guess what? I'm putting all of that plus some of my savings into paying the mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance for that property where they're not paying. So yeah, this can hurt anyone, big or small. Don't think for one second that I'm only out here talking about what's going on with small landlords. Okay, the stuff that's happening to big landlords is just as bad, if not worse, in some situations. Okay. While the landlords suspect bad faith in some cases, they say their ability to challenge a tenant's claimed hardships under the eviction moratorium legislation is too difficult. The Act claims to provide landlords with the opportunity to challenge hardship claims, but that process is illusory. According to court papers filed by attorneys Jeffrey Reyna, Paul Cambria, and Aaron McCampbell Paris, who represent the landlords, landlords cannot challenge hardship claims unless they are able to swear, under penalty of perjury, that they have a good faith belief that the hardship claims are false, they said. Yeah, and that's one of the provisions that they added in, trying to slip around the prior Supreme Court decision that, oh yeah, landlords, they can challenge it, but then they put all the burden of proving it onto the landlord. I'm like, no, don't. Why are you trying to make the landlord prove that this person is, either is or is not facing a hardship? That's going to be darn near impossible for a landlord to prove. Instead, they should have told the tenants, hey, if you want these protections, you have to prove that you are actually facing a hardship. But no, they wrote the law wrong, a law that shouldn't have been put in place in the first place. But this is the ridiculousness of the whole situation, okay? So we've gotten to the point now where they're just telling people, no, you don't have to pay rent. That's it. No, you don't have to pay rent. You can live here for free. You don't have to pay rent. I mean, the logic behind that is zero. Even the government charges rent for public housing, yet you're telling people, hey, well, you don't have to pay rent anymore. I mean, come on. What kind of clown world is this? I mean, this is just completely ridiculous. Okay, so hang in there, landlords from New York. Hopefully your lawsuit works and you're able to get this ridiculous, stupid law thrown out. I am sick of eviction moratoriums, I'll tell you that.